In the small seaside town of Carrick's Hollow, the townsfolk spoke of the Sea Widow, a ghostly figure who roamed the cliffs, her veil billowing like mist, her mournful cries carried by the wind. She was said to haunt the waters, seeking vengeance on sailors who dared to sail during storms. Most dismissed the tale as a local superstition, a cautionary tale to respect the sea. But those who scoffed often found themselves at the heart of her wrath. It began many years ago with Eleanor Marlowe, the wife of a fisherman named Jacob. The two were deeply in love, and Eleanor would wait every evening on the cliffs for Jacob's boat to return. But one stormy night, Jacob joined a merchant ship bound for fortune, despite Eleanor's pleas to stay. "You'll return to me, won't you?" she begged, clutching his hands as the storm churned the waves. "I promise," Jacob said, his voice full of conviction. "The sea may rage, but it won't keep me from you." But Jacob never returned. His ship vanished into the tempest, leaving Eleanor a widow. For weeks she stood on the cliffs, waiting for him, her heart breaking with every empty horizon. Eventually, her grief consumed her, and one night, during another fierce storm, she was seen walking toward the edge of the cliffs. Her cries of anguish were the last sound anyone heard before the sea swallowed her. From that day forward, strange occurrences plagued Carrick's Hollow. Ships caught in storms reported seeing a figure in the waves, veiled in sea foam, her voice rising above the wind. Some swore her cries lured them onto the rocks, while others spoke of her rage, capsizing boats with unseen force. The Sea Widow was born. The fateful voyage. Years later, a wealthy merchant named Elias Caldwell arrived in Carrick's Hollow, seeking to capitalize on its untapped fishing waters. Ambitious and dismissive of local lore, he scoffed at the warnings of the Sea Widow. "The sea's no place for ghosts," Elias declared, hiring a crew of fishermen desperate enough to brave the waters. The night they set sail, the townsfolk gathered at the docks, whispering prayers for their safety. The storm clouds rolled in as if summoned, and the wind howled like a chorus of banshees. Elias stood at the helm of his ship, the Silver Star, steering confidently into the churning sea. The crew worked frantically, but unease spread among them as the storm grew fiercer. Then, through the darkness, they saw her. A figure stood on the waves, her form illuminated by flashes of lightning. She wore a tattered wedding gown, her veil flowing like smoke, her eyes glowing with an unholy light. "Captain!" one of the crewmen cried. "It's her, the Sea Widow!" "Nonsense!" Elias barked, though his hands trembled on the wheel. The figure raised a pale, translucent hand and pointed at the ship. The wind roared and the sea surged, tossing the Silver Star like a toy. Waves rose impossibly high, crashing over the deck and sweeping men overboard. "Turn back!" the first mate screamed. But Elias was transfixed. The widow's voice pierced through the storm, a melody of sorrow and fury. "How do you sail my waters?" she cried. "Why do you defy the dead?" Elias found his voice. "I don't fear you. You're nothing but a ghost story." The widow's expression darkened, and the sea grew still. For a brief, eerie moment, the storm halted. Then, the waters beneath the Silver Star began to bubble and churn. "She's dragging us under!" one of the crewmen yelled. Elias grabbed a harpoon and aimed it at the specter. "You'll not take my ship." The harpoon sailed through her form, striking nothing but mist. The widow's laughter echoed across the water. "You cannot harm what you abandoned," she said, her voice like the crashing waves. "As you have taken, so shall you lose." The sea rose again, but this time it wasn't waves. Pale hands, countless and skeletal, emerged from the water, clawing at the ship. They pulled at the hull, the masts, and the terrified crew. Elias watched in horror as his men were dragged into the depths, their screams swallowed by the ocean. The last thing Elias saw was the widow's face, inches from his own. Her eyes burned with a fury he couldn't comprehend. "You will know my pain," she whispered. The aftermath. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving only debris scattered along the rocky shore. Fishermen found fragments of the Silver Star, but no bodies were recovered. The townsfolk knew what had happened and spoke no more of Elias Caldwell. The Sea Widow returned to her vigil, her cries echoing over the cliffs. Sailors passing Carrick's Hollow still report seeing her on stormy nights, her veil shimmering in the rain, her mournful song warning them to respect the sea or suffer her revenge. And so the legend of the Sea Widow lives on, a grim reminder that some promises, once broken, summon the wrath of the restless dead.